Hi, this is Dennis at Second Chance Tackle. It's time to go back to, well, the time machine. We're going to see how to take apart and service a reel that was made in 1956. And, well, it kind of shows a lot of inactivity. There's a lot of grime and film and the like on here. The reel itself is a Shakespeare Star. It's the model number 1908. Has the code down here of FE, which tells us it was made in 1956. Well, you can see it's been in storage or been in a flea market or been wherever it's been. There's just even dust and spider webs sitting in this thing. It does turn, and that's always a good indication. When you're looking at vintage reels, make sure you test these reels before you purchase them. You're never quite sure if one of the pieces and parts are broken. And well, if they're broken, they are very difficult to replace. So we're going to show you how to take this apart and tune this up, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better than it is right now, because it's taking quite an effort to turn this. That's probably largely due to just dried greases and the like. That's my typical finding on these. But you just want to make sure your line guide's moving, the reel's turning, the spool's moving, and the like. This is a direct drive fishing reel. It does not have a star adjuster or any kind of braking system on this. It does have a spool adjuster to loosen up a little bit on the casting ability, but otherwise this is about as straightforward a reel as you can get, and typically used in a freshwater pond situation as a round bait caster. Well, we're going to start by taking off the exterior. And as we do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That notification button is going to allow you to see when I'm posting videos, and I'll make a decision as to whether that's a video you would like to watch. Well, when I take my pieces and parts off, I remove that handle screw cap with a screwdriver. And as I take them off, sometimes I will clean these. I'm not one that says that this one needs to have a beautiful patina on it. There's a lot of grime and dirt and the like, so we're going to clean all of that off. In this case, I'm using a mild steel wool just to polish it. And we'll put that aside in a parts tray so that we know where those pieces and parts are when it's time to reinstall. The side case is only held on by two side plate screws. I'm going to use a little bit of penetrating oil here as a kind of a cleaning agent. There's a whole bunch of dirt and the like right around the collar for that main gear. See if we can get that out. Well, I guess we'll just call that one patina. And we'll clean the rest up over time, but I just thought maybe I could get a little bit of that out of the way. All right, there's a relatively small slot for the screw. If your screwdriver does not fit it, obviously you're going to have to move down to, well, a smaller screwdriver. And in this case, it would be a micro driver. So we're going to pull that off. And there's two screws holding this side plate on. Again, if you're working on a reel like this, or you're considering purchasing a reel like this, make sure it's complete and that it turns. It doesn't matter how hard or easy it is to turn. What does matter is that it turns, because, well, it's 1956, so it's 65 or more years old, 68 years old, I guess. And well, it's just going to take an effort here to go find them. Well, this is a typical setup for the Shakespeare, so I'm not quite sure sometimes when they name the models and the like, what's so different about them. Sometimes it's as simple as case color and the like. I'm going to remove the spool. We had the gear drive fall off. And that's a good point right there to tell you to take pictures as you're working on your reels. Those pictures will help you to see where the pieces and parts go. And later it'll help you to put them back together again if you get lost. Let's see if we can remove this. I'm not sure if that, yep, it's going to come out. Okay, so what we're going to do here is there's a pawl underneath that's held in by a clip. The clip is held on by a screw. We're going to remove that so we can take the worm gear out, clean the reel a little bit, and clean that pawl. Here's the pawl and the cap as it came out. We'll put that into a corner of my parts tray for safekeeping. Now we should just be able to slide the worm gear out and remove the line guide. And on this, you want to notice one side of it has a completely round stud. The other side has a stud that looks like the letter D. That's the one that's going to face the main gear. In this case, the worm drive, you want to examine all the slots inside of it. They seem fine. And well, we're just going to go back to that penetrating oil I had, soak it. Penetrating oil is a solvent in addition to a lubricant. It's a little bit of everything, right? It says, if you ever read the can, stops squeaks, removes and protects, loosens rust parts, frees sticky mechanisms, drives out moisture. And it used to say lubricates, but well, I guess maybe they've kind of given up on that. I don't know. All right, we're just going to make sure it's clean. I use the paper towel and actually have some fabric got stuck in there. If it's not clean, go ahead and use a bristle brush. You could use everything from a toothbrush to a dollar store one. I think this came in a set somewhere. I'd like to figure out where it came from so I can get another set. They're starting to wear down. But make sure that you clean it, you check the tracks, get rid of any dirt, debris, and maybe that occasional spider web that shows up in there. Then you can put that in the parts tray as well. There's not much we're going to be able to do with this cosmetically on the metal. The metal is tarnished, but it, in a lot of cases it's just lost metal plating. You can't do too much with the plating. All right, this is why I wanted to remove the worm gears, because this inner shield here has a lot of dirt and debris in it, and this is sort of redundant, right, or repetitive. We're just kind of Jim Tan laundry by the old MTV show, right? We're just going to be using penetrating oil, trying to clean up what we can, make sure that it's as clean as we can get it. I'm using a cotton swab here. I like to use the least abrasive method possible. You can see that's all just lost metal plating on it. So you don't want the pitting and the like, but there's nothing you can do about the lost chroming or metal plating that goes on there. And some of it, in some cases, it's character, right? It's just shows that, well, this reel's been around for 68 years and it's been used, and there's been things that have happened to it that, well, just kind of tell you a little bit about it. It's sort of like the bumps and dents and things and the like you get on your pickup truck or your automobile. They're just kind of remembrances of things. Some good, some not so good. All right, we should be able to get to this side, and I think this is one of the reasons why it's performing as poorly as it is. There's a lot of dirt, caked grease, and all kinds of things in the track where the spool rides, in addition to being all over that that side plate. So again, we'll do that. So these were kind of the reels that were around before the advent of the things like the Abu round bait casters and the more modern day ones. And actually in the 50s, well, spinning reels weren't even that popular yet. So these were the kind of the reel of choice. They go all the way back. They go back a long ways. And the spinning reel was really a change that came after World War II. And first in Europe and then in the U.S. And, well, kind of replaced this kind of a thing. And then low-profile bait casters came in after that. And then, of course, the rest of it, well, it's a variation on a theme. The design And the use really hasn't changed too much. And all of the innovations were done on reels like this. So for example, this one does not have an anti-reverse. Well, there were reels that came along with that. This reel does not have a drag system. Well, the drags were available on reels like this, just not this one. And if you were to characterize this, you would say this would have been a lower priced reel at the time. I haven't gone back and done any work to see if I can find the catalog that says what this reel is selling for. But a lot of times these reels sold attached, probably in '56 they were probably attached to a fiberglass pole, probably about a 6 foot. It could have been, the earlier ones would have been attached to steel poles. Those would have been pre-World War II. But with the advent of fiberglass, a lot of them moved over to that. But you can see there's just a lot of dings and the like. I'll call them character marks. And that's probably from, well, knocking around doing what it was intended to do, which is go fishing. All right, well, we've cleaned up the dirt in the rings. Looks like we have a nice pointy clicker there, click tongue. I'm going to do something that this reel probably hasn't seen in a while. We're going to put some lubrication back on. I'm going to use some Penn fishing reel grease. Go into that little circle there, the stud on the adjuster. And then we're going to put some on the back end of the spool as well. I'm going to clean out the dust in there. I don't think a spider was living in this reel, but I think that it was living nearby. We obviously saw that spider web there. All right. Clean that up. All right. We're going to take that grease and just put a little bit onto the stud of the spool. And a lot of it, there's a little debris in this one. Looks like a broken line or something maybe. Want to get that out of there. Okay, and we'll put the grease onto the gear. That will be, if it wasn't attached to the spool, I guess we would call it the pinion gear. I guess we can still call it the pinion gear. And then we'll put that back in. I do want to reload that line guide before I get too much further along. So let's show you how to do that. We'll remove the pieces and parts from the parts tray. Remember what we said on this? There's a rounded side and then there's one that has a flat portion of it that makes it look like the letter D. The line guide itself, probably should have cleaned the groove here while I was talking to you. There is a groove here. You want to make sure that you don't have any dirt caught up in this groove. A lot of times these things we use fishing on the banks of rivers or from piers. They wound up in mud and they wound up with all kinds of stuff in those little tracks. And sometimes, well, the performance of the reel is actually dependent on that track itself. All right, let's set that in like that. Little bit of grease onto the stud that's going to ride in the other carriage. Let's bring that through. And then seat that into the hole in the side plate here, that little button. This is the gear that will be driven from the main gear. Find the flat spot on it and place that in there. Well, I guess we can lock this in, I think. Right? Yeah. Yep, we can lock that in first. We can put that gear on. Now we can turn the reel upside down. And I oil the pawls. I don't grease them. And a lot of folks tell me that they grease them. I find that the grease dries. I find that the grease is, from time to time, problematic in that it collects the dirt and the like. And I just prefer to, I'd rather run it dry and then come back and put a little bit more oil in it than have the longer lasting grease hold the dirt and debris and kind of impact the performance. All right, we've cleaned the shoulders on the pawl. We're going to install the pawl into the hole in the carrier. Then, as we noted, we have a little collar that's going to hold that in place. And then I need to go to my parts tray and get that little screw. And hopefully I don't drop this screw while I'm going through the reattachment process. If there's anything I worry about with these older reels, it's that the pieces get lost. Because then you really can't do anything. Right now I'm just centering the pawl, making sure that it's working. And then I can tighten down that carrier. Well, we know one thing. The pawl is turning a lot easier. Okay, just checking to make sure everything's working nicely, and it is. A little bit more oil onto the piece, and then let's set that aside. We can take our spool now, put the spool in, and as you're working on these reels, the more time you take to put the pieces back as you found them, sooner the better. Alright, this is probably the other part of the Dragon performance. I suspect that we have a lot of dried greases in that in here. We're going to remove the center shaft, and we're going to remove the main gear. And I like to notice that this was facing the case. So we're going to clean that up. I'm going to roll that over, but I'm going to try to remember what side is what. Now this should work either way. I'm going to put the downside towards the case. And then we have all that dirt inside the inner case here. A lifetime of dirt. 68 years or so of dirt here. It'll take a minute to clean that out. So typically what would happen is if you bought this reel new, you probably fished it, probably kept it nice and maintained. And then somewhere along the line, you or your dad or your granddad or your grandmother or whoever was fishing with this reel stopped fishing. It wound up in a shelf, it wound up in a shed, it wound up in a garage. Who knows where it wound up? Wound up somewhere in this one where spiders were, because we saw a spider track in there. And well, this is what happens. The greases dry out, the dirt goes, probably wasn't cleaned up the last time you decided you weren't going to go fishing anymore, and became a little bit of a family legacy or lure or whatever. And at some point, well, whoever was the caretaker, whoever decided they didn't want it any longer, and put it up for sale. And they didn't clean it when they put it up for sale either. All right, a little bit of grease onto the shaft there. Remember what I said, this is the one that's going to go to the case. Let's load that up. The big wheel is going to drive the line guide, which is on the outer piece. The little wheel is going to drive the spool gear. So we want to get grease on both. And then we can reinstall this. Just grab that and get that back into the case. Once you've set the gear into the case, I like to hold the gear in place and come around and put the handle back on now. If you wait, sometimes that gear is just floating in the case. And what will happen is you'll push it in, and well, you'll wind up taking the case off anyway. Tighten this down as much by hand as you can. And use your screwdriver to complete the turn. A little bit of oil on each seam of this. Sometimes you're going to find due to the age these plastic handles don't turn. There's nothing much you can do about that. That's the fact that the plastic is swollen around the stud, and well, you're kind of out of luck there. Find these two holes. That's where the holes from the side case will go. Let's put this all in place. Make sure it's a nice tight snap. If you have a gap there, try turning the handle. That usually will load up it'll mesh the line guide with the main gear. Sometimes it doesn't close because the two teeth haven't aligned, so just a small turn of the handle will help that. Alright, the two screws are in, or going in, and then we'll give it a test. We'll see how we did. Remember, we were struggling with this one. It had a lot of dirt in it, a lot of old grease, turning poorly, probably sitting in storage for quite some time based on those spider webs. And well, I think this one's going to get a second chance. All right, last of the screws. Everything seems tight in position. Let's give it a try. Okay, nothing left but to give it a test. So before we do, let's just go over it again. It was very dirty. We've cleaned it all up. We showed you how to remove the line guide and the worm gear assemblies, clean up as much as we could of the tarnish and the dirt, particularly on the inside of this side plate where it just showed a lot of years of dirt and debris in there. General overall cleaning, we removed the gears, checked them, made sure that they're all good, that the teeth were clean and not full of debris or anything. Showed you a little bit how to clean the tracks in the worm gear. And well, now let's give it a test. Look at this. This reel is worthy of a second chance. What a nice turning reel. 68 years old and cranking away. Wow. All right. Well, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I want to thank our police, fire, safety, and rescue for everything it is that they do. And well, I want to encourage you again to subscribe to my channel if you like these types of videos and if you want to see more. Please indicate that you like this, and well, stay tuned for watching for the next episode. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.